It was a weird morning, like something you'd read in a short story, the kind of story that starts with a seemingly mundane moment, then spirals into something unbelievable. I was sitting with my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, on the curb by a busy intersection, waiting for a light to change so we could cross the street and grab coffee at the place we always go. We'd been together for a couple of years, and I thought everything was fine. Sure, there were the occasional small annoyances, but nothing out of the ordinary. You know, typical couple stuff. I guess I didn't see it coming, the way everything would shift in an instant. We were chatting about random things, some minor disagreement we'd had a few days ago, when I saw the car speeding toward the intersection. It was like something out of a bad movie, everything slowed down in that moment. I saw a rabbit dart across the road, and then, without warning, the car hit it. I braced for the usual thing you see when an animal gets hit, the crunch, the mess. But instead, the rabbit didn't get squashed. It flew. Flew. As if it was being flung forward by some unseen force. And that's when it happened. The rabbit landed right in my lap. This wasn't some weird metaphor. No, a literal rabbit, freaking alive, was sitting on my legs. I couldn't process it. I looked down, blinking, half in shock. My mind wasn't catching up with what I was seeing. I should have been freaked out by the blood or the suddenness of it, but honestly? The first thing that came to mind was, well, this is the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. Sarah was laughing nervously, but laughing nonetheless. I just sat there, frozen. The rabbit didn't seem hurt at all. It was panting a little, like it had run a marathon, but other than that, it was fine, maybe a little dazed, but definitely alive. I looked at Sarah, who was still giggling, and I think I was hoping she'd break the tension, like maybe she could make sense of this ridiculousness. But no. Instead, she kept laughing as if this were some bizarre joke. "Are you okay?" she finally asked, between chuckles, still a little too amused for my liking. I couldn't answer right away. What do you even say to that? "Yeah, I'm fine, just sitting here with a rabbit that fell from the sky, no big deal." I kept glancing down at it, wondering how the hell I was supposed to handle this. I tried to move my legs, and the rabbit darted to the side, then froze, still looking a bit disoriented. The whole thing was surreal. I've had strange days before, sure. But this? This was a whole new level. My mind was racing, my heart still pounding from the shock. Was this some weird omen? Some cosmic sign that things were about to get way weirder? I couldn't make sense of it, but what I did know was that this moment, right here, felt like the universe had just shifted on its axis. I had no idea that, just moments later, it was going to be the least strange thing that would happen to me in the next few hours. And that's when it hit me. For the first time, I realized that Sarah wasn't just laughing because it was funny. She was laughing like she had no idea what else to do. Almost like she was hiding something. That was the moment I started to feel it, a little inkling of something off between us, but I couldn't put my finger on it just yet. As I stood up, carefully cradling the rabbit in my hands, I caught Sarah's face in the corner of my eye. She wasn't laughing anymore, but she wasn't looking at the rabbit either. Instead, her gaze was fixed somewhere in the distance, almost as if she was avoiding eye contact. I wasn't sure why it felt significant at the time, but something about her expression, distant, distracted, didn't sit right with me. Are you okay?" I asked, trying to break the silence. "You're not freaked out by the rabbit, are you?" She blinked, snapped out of whatever trance she was in, and gave me a quick, forced smile. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, this is a bit much, don't you think?" I nodded, but there was still something in the way she said it that bugged me. Maybe it was the way she deflected the question. Maybe it was the hesitation in her voice. I don't know. I guess, looking back, that should have been my first sign that something wasn't right. She wasn't acting like her usual self, like she was avoiding something. And it wasn't the rabbit. I was still holding the rabbit in my hands, and I could feel the soft fur brushing against my palms. It was calming in a weird way, as if it had some magical, soothing effect. The moment felt peaceful, almost like a brief pause in the chaos of life. But underneath that calm, something was starting to gnaw at me. I looked at Sarah again, but now she was digging through her bag, distracted. I knew I should have said something then, asked her why she seemed so off. But instead, I glanced at my watch, 10:15 a.m. This wasn't just about the rabbit anymore. Something bigger was happening, and I could feel it creeping up, like a storm I couldn't see yet but could sense on the horizon. But what was it? What was she hiding? I was about to find out. I gently placed the rabbit on the grass by the curb, watching it hop away into the bushes, seemingly unharmed. That should have been the end of it, right? A weird moment, a weird morning, but one that would fade as quickly as it came. But of course, nothing is ever that simple. As I turned to Sarah, ready to shrug off the strangeness of the situation and move on, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I took it out, glancing at the screen. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't pick it up, thinking it might be a spam call or something, but for some reason, I decided to answer. "Hello?" I said, trying to mask the annoyance in my voice. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, then a voice I didn't recognize. "Is this my name?" the voice asked, sounding official. "Yeah, who's this?" I replied, my gut tensing up. "This is Detective Hall from the police department," the voice continued. "I need to ask you a few questions regarding an incident that happened earlier today." I froze. The connection between the rabbit and this sudden call didn't click in my brain yet, but a part of me knew this wasn't just a coincidence. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. "What incident?" I asked, my voice tightening. The detective hesitated before speaking again. "We have reason to believe that a car involved in a hit and run might be connected to a larger investigation. It's related to your girlfriend, Sarah." My stomach dropped. Sarah had already turned away, her back to me as she checked something on her phone. But my mind was reeling. What did this mean? What was going on? And why had I never heard about this before? "Are you there?" The detective's voice pulled me back to reality. I glanced at Sarah, her profile still visible as she scrolled through her phone, oblivious. I didn't know what to say. Was she in trouble? Did she know something I didn't? Was I even safe? "Yeah," I said, swallowing the knot in my throat. "What's this about?" "Just meet us at the station when you can," the detective replied. "This is urgent." As soon as I hung up, I felt my heart pounding in my chest. Something was off, and I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. I stood there, staring at my phone screen, the weight of the conversation sinking in. My mind was racing, trying to connect dots that didn't seem to line up. The detective's words echoed in my ears, connected to Sarah. What the hell did that mean? I glanced over at Sarah, who was still absorbed in her phone, completely unaware of the internal storm raging inside me. I wanted to confront her right then and there. Ask her what the hell was going on. But I couldn't. Something about the situation didn't feel right. The way she'd been acting, the way she deflected questions, it all felt like I was missing something. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. The last thing I wanted was to escalate things with her, especially when I didn't even know what I was dealing with yet. I stuffed my phone back into my pocket and took a step toward her, trying to act like everything was normal. "Hey, Sarah," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." She glanced up from her phone, her eyes flicking over me briefly before she smiled. But it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes, a quick, almost practiced smile. "What's up?" she asked, still trying to hide whatever it was she was feeling. I didn't know how to approach this. Do I accuse her outright? Do I confront her about the police call? Or do I wait for more answers? I need to know what's going on," I said, my voice softer now. "Something feels off. Are you in some kind of trouble, Sarah?" Her eyes widened slightly, then she quickly averted her gaze, focusing on something far off in the distance, like she was trying to avoid the question. That was enough to send a wave of panic through me. Why wasn't she answering me directly? What was she hiding? "I'm not in trouble," she said, her voice a little too defensive, a little too fast. "I promise. It's nothing, really." I didn't buy it. There was something behind those words, something she wasn't saying. Before I could press her further, I glanced down at my watch again. It was already pushing 10:30 a.m. and I needed to get to the station. I could feel the clock ticking in my head. Every second felt like it was adding more weight to the situation. I turned back to Sarah, trying to keep my emotions in check, but failing. "I'm going to the police station," I said. "There's something you're not telling me. I don't know what's going on, but I need the truth." She froze. Her lips parted, like she was about to say something, but no words came out. I didn't wait. I walked away, the tension between us thick enough to choke on. The ride to the station was a blur. I don't remember much of the drive itself, just the hum of the engine, the occasional glance at the rearview mirror, and the steady beat of my heart thumping in my chest. It was like every mile I drove was stretching time, turning a short trip into a drawn-out eternity. My thoughts were all over the place. The detective's voice kept ringing in my ears, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. Was Sarah involved in something criminal? Was she lying to me about her whereabouts, or was it something even deeper? I thought back to everything that had felt off about her the past few weeks. The sudden long hours at work, the odd texts she kept deleting from her phone, the way she'd been distant lately. But how could I have missed it all? I felt like an idiot, like I should have noticed something earlier. How long had she been keeping secrets? Was I just too naive to see it? I pulled into the parking lot of the police station, my hands gripping the wheel tighter than necessary. When I parked, I sat there for a moment, taking a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I wasn't sure what I expected to find when I went inside. Was I going to confront Sarah? Was I going to uncover some hidden truth? Or was I just going to unravel everything I thought I knew about her? I got out of the car and headed toward the entrance of the station. My stomach twisted in knots, the uncertainty gnawing at me. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was walking into a scene I didn't belong in, and yet, here I was. I walked into the police station, the sterile, clinical smell of coffee and paper hanging in the air. The fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, adding to the tension that gripped my chest. My footsteps echoed in the otherwise quiet hallway as I approached the front desk. The officer behind the counter looked up, his eyes scanning me quickly before he gave a curt nod. "Detective Hall is expecting you," he said, motioning toward a door behind him. "Down the hall, second door on the left." I didn't say anything in response. Just nodded, feeling like a robot moving through the motions. As I walked down the hallway, I could feel my pulse quickening with every step. What was I walking into? What was going to happen next? Every step felt like I was heading deeper into some twisted version of my life. I reached the door and knocked, the sound too loud in the otherwise quiet station. A voice from inside responded immediately. "Come in." I pushed the door open and entered, trying to steady my breath. Detective Hall was sitting behind a desk, flipping through some papers, his face calm and serious. He glanced up as I entered, then gave a nod, indicating I should sit down. "Thanks for coming in," he said in a low, neutral tone. "I know this probably feels strange, but I'm sure you'll understand why we need to talk." I sat down across from him, unsure of what I was supposed to say. "Why is this about Sarah?" I asked, the words coming out before I could stop them. My voice wasn't shaking, but it felt tight, like I was choking on something I couldn't quite express. Detective Hall studied me for a moment, then folded his hands on the desk. "Before we get into that, I need you to listen carefully," he said, his voice suddenly more intense. "I'm not here to make you paranoid, but I think you need to know that your girlfriend may be involved in something far more complicated than you realize." I froze. My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" The detective leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine with a directness that made me uncomfortable. "Sarah is part of a larger investigation. It involves a series of crimes, and we're still trying to piece things together. But I'm afraid she may be more involved than she's letting on. You've been with her for a while, right? So, I'm sure you know when she's acting differently. I need to know everything you can tell me about her." His words felt like a punch to the gut, and I struggled to breathe. The room seemed to close in around me.
My head was spinning. Could Sarah really be involved in something criminal? Something big?
The rabbit, the police call, the secrecy, it all started to feel connected, but it didn't make any sense. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. I stared at the detective, trying to process what he was saying, but my mind kept circling back to Sarah.
My Sarah. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew. The rabbit, the strange call, and now this? How could it all be tied together? I don't understand, I stammered, still reeling. Sarah? Involved in something illegal? What are you talking about? Detective Hall's expression didn't soften. It's not just about her.
It's about who she's been spending time with, and what she's been involved in. We've got evidence that links her to a larger operation, but we're still trying to figure out how deep it goes. I'm not saying she's guilty, but there's enough to make me worry. I shook my head, disbelief taking over. You have to be wrong. There's no way. I'd know. I'd feel it if something was off with her. Hall sighed, his voice softening just a touch. Look, I'm not here to accuse her yet. We're still investigating. But I need to know if there's anything at all, you can tell me about her behavior lately. Any signs, anything strange she might have said or done? My heart was pounding, and for the first time, doubt started creeping in. Could I have missed something? Was I so caught up in our relationship that I didn't see the signs? I thought back to the last few weeks, the late nights at work, her reluctance to let me see her phone, her growing distance. I kept telling myself it was just stress, that she was just tired, but what if that was her covering something up? I don't know, I admitted, the words feeling like they were being dragged from me. She's been a little distant lately. But I mean, it could be nothing. She's just stressed out with work, that's all. The detective didn't seem convinced. You don't seem convinced either. Look, I'm not trying to turn you against her, but I need your help here. If she's mixed up in something, you might be in danger too. And if you don't want to be caught up in this, you need to start thinking clearly. His words hit me like a ton of bricks. I wanted to believe in Sarah, wanted to trust her more than anything. But everything was starting to crumble around me. The rabbit, the call, the secrecy, everything was pointing to a reality I wasn't ready to face. Is she in danger? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Hall hesitated for a moment before answering, his face grim. Possibly. I need you to stay vigilant. If you notice anything unusual, anything at all, you need to let me know. I sat there in stunned silence. My mind was spinning, unable to grasp the enormity of what was happening. This wasn't the life I thought I was living. This wasn't the woman I thought I knew. But somehow, deep down, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to unsee this. I was already too far down the rabbit hole. And no matter how much I wanted to deny it, there was something in Sarah's world I didn't understand, and it was starting to pull me under. The rest of the conversation with Detective Hall was a blur. He kept talking about connections, investigations, and potential dangers, but I wasn't really listening anymore. My mind was trapped on the same thought, Sarah. Was she a part of this? Could I have been so blind to her secrets for so long? The detective handed me a card with his contact information and told me to reach out if I remembered anything. I nodded, but the truth was, I wasn't sure I could focus on anything else right now. The more I thought about it, the more questions piled up. Was she in over her head? Was I in danger because of her? Or was there a bigger, more terrifying truth lurking just out of sight? I left the station in a daze, barely remembering the drive back to my apartment. When I walked through the door, I was already expecting Sarah to be there, though I wasn't sure what kind of conversation we'd have when I saw her. What did I even say? Hey, I found out you're involved in something illegal? That wasn't how I imagined this conversation going. Hell, I never imagined it going this way at all. I sat down on the couch and tried to calm my racing thoughts. The apartment felt so quiet, too quiet. I felt alone. I kept replaying everything that had happened in my mind. The rabbit, the call, the strange way Sarah had been acting. My chest tightened with anxiety, and I stood up, pacing back and forth. I didn't want to confront her without knowing the full truth, but I couldn't just ignore the gut feeling telling me something was wrong.
What had she been hiding from me? And more importantly, why? Then, my phone buzzed again, pulling me out of my thoughts. I looked down to see a message from Sarah. "Hey, we need to talk. I know things have been weird lately. Can we meet up? I need to explain."
I stared at the message for a long time, my hands trembling slightly.
Was this it? Was she finally going to confess? Or was this just another half-truth?
I didn't know if I was ready for whatever was coming next. But one thing was certain, the truth, whatever it was coming.
And I wasn't sure I was prepared to face it.
I took a deep breath, my thumb hovering over the reply button.
Sure. Where? I hit send, knowing that whatever happened next, it was going to change everything.
I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, my mind kept racing, replaying the detective's words, the image of Sarah's distant face, the strange rabbit incident.
I kept wondering if I was just overreacting, if maybe it was all just a series of coincidences. But deep down, I knew better. Something was wrong. I just didn't know what. I woke up early the next morning, feeling a mix of dread and anticipation. The meeting with Sarah was inevitable.
I could already imagine the conversation, but there was no way to prepare myself for the truth, whatever it might be. She had suggested a coffee shop, our usual spot, the one where we used to meet for dates, where everything felt simple and easy. I was half tempted to cancel, to avoid facing whatever storm was about to hit.
But I knew I couldn't. I had to hear her out.
I had to know what was going on, even if it meant facing the ugly reality. I arrived at the coffee shop early, wanting to gather my thoughts before she showed up. My hands were clammy as I sat down at a small table by the window. Every person that walked in made my heart race for a second, until I realized it wasn't Sarah.
The minutes felt like hours, and my mind kept spiraling, imagining all the possible scenarios. Would she confess? Would she lie? Would she deny everything and act like nothing was wrong? Finally, she walked through the door. My heart skipped a beat.
She looked the same, beautiful, as always, but there was something in her eyes that I hadn't seen before.
Something guarded.
It made my stomach turn. She spotted me immediately and gave a small, forced smile. "Hey," she said, sitting down across from me. Her voice was soft, almost fragile.
"Hey," I replied, my throat dry.
I didn't know how to start this conversation. I wanted to just blurt out everything I'd learned, but something stopped me. Instead, I studied her face, trying to read her.
She took a deep breath, like she was preparing herself.
"I know you've probably got a lot of questions," she started.
"And I'm sorry for not being honest with you before." I nodded, my heart racing again. This was it. This was where everything would either fall apart or something else.
"I don't even know where to start," she continued, her voice shaking just a little.
"But I didn't want you to find out like this." "Find out what?"
I asked, unable to hide the sharpness in my voice.
I wasn't angry yet, but I felt like I was on the edge.
She hesitated, glancing down at the table.
"I've been involved in something complicated. Something I didn't want you to be part of."
I leaned forward, my heart pounding.
"What kind of something, Sarah? What are you involved in?"
She looked up at me then, her eyes filled with both guilt and fear. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but I got mixed up with the wrong people. And now it's spiraled out of control." I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. My mind was racing, but I kept my voice steady.
"What do you mean, mixed up? What are you involved in?"
She took a deep breath, then spoke in a hushed tone.
"I'm being blackmailed, my name. They've threatened to hurt you if I don't do what they say. I've tried to protect you, but I haven't been able to."
The weight of her words hit me like a punch to the stomach.
Blackmailed? They were threatening me?
The anger I had been holding back all this time started to rise, but at the same time, a wave of relief washed over me.
Sarah wasn't the person I thought she was, but at least she wasn't a criminal. At least she wasn't a liar. I swallowed hard, trying to process everything. Who's doing this to you?
Her eyes welled up with tears.
I can't tell you.
If I do, if you know too much, they'll hurt you.
I'm trying to get out, but I'm scared. I don't know how to make it stop. I sat back in my chair, stunned. Everything I had imagined, everything I feared, it was worse than I thought. The last thing I wanted was for Sarah to be in danger,